Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money and the Law here on My FM 101.3, and of course with Holliston Cable Access TV. There they are. My name is John Drohan. I'm with Main Effort Financial. Joined by my esteemed colleague and your favorite lawyer, number one in your playbook.
Number 12 in your playbook, number one in your heart. That's right.
Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group. We are here today to talk about all things money and all things law. Money, and hence the show.
That's how we got it. I know. It's so
Jay,
genius.
How are you doing today?
Doing well, buddy. I'm doing well. Feeling better. I was a little down and out. Had a cold and a crazy fever. And
you shine up though. You hold up. We could prop you up. You're kind of like El Cid a little bit. Yeah,
that's right. Rallied a little bit for that. It was pretty funny.
And you had late nights. You had a couple late evenings.
Town meeting this week. Halloween. It was crazy. But got to get your sleep.
But you think about right. So you'd say, well, Jay, being a selectman, he has to kind of endure those town meetings. It's his show, right? And he has to deal with all that. It's not a cakewalk.
It's not relaxing. It's not relaxing.
We're not a Disney kids.
It's not that.
So you think like that's a lot of work. I would imagine though that the following night, which was Halloween, well, I don't know what was harder probably, or actually what was more tiring at the end.
Well, the hardest was Wednesday morning. That was the hardest. That's the hardest part of it. The whole week, crazy.
I have to say. So one of the things we take great pride in our house is ghosting. It's one of a time old. I think it's a New England tradition. Well, of course, it'll be a New England tradition.
I'd never heard of it until I moved out here.
That's
right now.
There you go.
It was new to me.
So one of the things that we do in our house is we ghost. And this year we came up with the idea to do some grown-up ghosting.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say who we ghosted, but we may have ghosted somebody.
You know who you are.
Somebody, somebody in this room, and it was an experience to remember. Just for no other reason than my esteemed colleague has a driveway that is probably at about an 82-degree angle. Like literally, you need grappling hooks, and a safety line to get up that thing. We made it. Fortunately, the three ghosts that were out made it.
Nice. So. Fantastic. It's good stuff.
Grown-up ghosting, you don't bring candy either.
No, it's a grown-up gift. It's a grown-up gift. But the kids are surprised, so they enjoyed it and they love that rap on the door. And we get a couple of them, and every year I was telling you before the show. Every year I say to myself, why don't we do more ghosting? It's kind of like a fun...
It's a kind version of ring and run.
That's exactly what it is.
It's a kind version of ring and run.
You're kind of aggravated. Somebody's at the door. You're like, who could this be at 10 o'clock at night? Who's knocking? Oh, look at the little gift. This is nice.
As kids, we never did that.
No,
right?
Never,
so as kids growing up in Connecticut, we never ghosted. We did go visit people's houses before Halloween.
Yeah, they don't call that ghosting. They call that vandalism, is what they call that.
I'm not saying
in some communities, larceny. Right?
I'm not saying that's what we did, but it was funny because I get that same kind of like feeling, like when I'm out with my kids, I'm like, come on, let's go, we're gonna go do, and
let's go commit a crime.
We weren't really giving anybody. We weren't. Well, actually, we were. We were giving them some dairy product.
Yeah, some dairy product. That's right.
There we go.
Well, it was
some breakfast.
It was kind of a farm to table thing. It's a little different.
It's a little different. Yeah, it was more of like a farm to the roof or to like the bedroom window or the front door.
That's right. That's right. A lot of payback on that night for a whole host of year-long worth of issues.
You know what? I could do a whole show on that one day.
We could do a whole property casualty show.
I'll tell you the show where my brother and I decided. And again, we are not promoting this by any stretch.
By no means.
But two young middle schoolers, back 1,000 years ago, my brother and I decided that we were going to, deliver some eggs to a neighbor's house. Unfortunately, we decided to deliver it through the back trail, the only trail that led from our house to their house,
right.
And that's where we delivered them. And then, of course, who else would have done it, right? So we're like, how did we get caught?
Yeah. It's funny. Every year, even in my own situation, somebody actually came to me one time and said, I have a legal question for you around the egg damage to the property deal.
Yeah.
And the first thing people tell you, and I'm sure all of our listeners know this, but egg will mess up your paint job, right?
Heck yeah.
There is nothing.
Oh, no.
There's nothing.
It's bad.
There's
it's
nothing
all
funny about it. Afterwards,
afterwards,
it's like, what happened to your paint job? I don't know. I think I do know now. Look at all the remnants of.
This was Halloween, 1993.
Yeah. So it is not to be trifled with because some
awful.
people don't find it as funny as you do, and some people find it so funny that they call me and they say, "Hey, you specialize in this type of law?" I said, "Well, I don't really specialize in it. I'm not sure what kind of law it is, other than getting the cops involved. Law, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah. And by the way, and they'll come out, and if you make a phone call, the cops will come out and they will investigate it.
Yeah.
Like it's a legit.
Take sample.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they'll look.
They might as well. You might have thrown Molotov cocktails.
They'll look for the box that the eggs were. I mean, they will go.
Evidence.
They will go to town on this. I mean,
Will they do a stakeout? Because that's what we were always afraid of.
It's a bit of a CSI vibe, is what it is. It's all about they can connect the DNA of the egg on the house with the DNA of the there's no gunpowder residue, but they're looking for some yolk residue. I mean, there's all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, my brother and I were never subject to any finger yolk test or anything like that.
That's right. Swab.
Put your hands in the solution.
They have a black light that they put on you that highlights the egg and all this crazy stuff. Like, all right, you too.
Black light. Yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
We're talking about egg and houses, which I'm not proud of, and we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about if you may have heard in our promo, we're talking about the second family. So we're talking about the second family, and it's good. It's
not
a good
at the
thing.
same time. We're not talking about having a second family like in another community or down the Cape that your wife doesn't know about.
Then
if
your house gets egged, it's for a different
right,
reason.
Right. Yeah. These are in chronological order. This is your second.
Let's say that people have kind of they've been in one situation, then for whatever reason that situation changed, and now they're in a new situation. They're in a new relationship, and in this case they're married, right? So the second marriage, and what happened, and so now you're like starting your life again, and you're together, and you're on your honeymoon, and you're gonna start to plan for the rest of your lives.
Yep.
But what happens is oftentimes is that these people, they get together and they're older. A lot of times they're older, and they kind of have had their own life being on their own and kind of managing that. And one of the things that they manage predominantly is their finances, right?
Sure.
So it's not only when two people get married, but their finances get married the second time around. There's a whole plethora of things that kind of come along with that. And it's not as easy a navigational journey as one may think, because you know it, right? When you first get married, you're like, people get married, they're all psyched, and they're not thinking about money, they're not thinking about 10 years down the road.
As you're explaining it, I'm thinking to myself, it's in a lot of ways. This is I don't mean to downplay it, but in a lot of ways, it's like this idea of people who jump into business together, right? Yeah. And they say, they're so excited about jumping into the business together, and they're so excited about making sure that the business gets off the ground, that there's all this enthusiasm, and they charge right into it before they stop and say, well, before we do this, let's make sure that we're both bringing separate things to the table, and so how are we going to handle this going forward? And you hate to think of it this way, but you say to yourself, and if it doesn't work, if the relationship doesn't work out for any number of reasons on the business side, how do we extricate ourselves from the situation? And the second marriage is, you've already been through that once, so the second relationship, you've been through that once, you know what happened the first time, so now how do we set it up the second time? And it's different, it's very different. I completely agree with you. A lot of times if it's a first marriage, you start out together and you might not.
Well, there's less moving parts probably.
Well,
too.
and you probably each not really. Hopefully you are, but you're probably not bringing a lot to the table together because you're building it together, right? You haven't bought a house yet. You're going to buy your first house. You just started working, so you don't have a huge retirement plan, or you don't have any pension money. So you're working on it together. But if it's at some point down the road that falls apart, and then you get remarried, or you bring a second relationship together. Now you're both coming to the table with something. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Completely agree with
you. And by all means, going into business, getting married, you need that enthusiasm. I mean, if you're getting married and you're not enthusiastic about it, you need to rethink that. Forget the money.
Yeah.
That's right. But we're getting married because
we got nothing else going on.
Yeah, we might as well. Yeah.
What else? It's a weekend. Why not? What else we can do?
Right.
Pat's on.
We're in Vegas.
It's a bye week.
Vegas. Yeah. We're here. Might as well, right?
Yeah. Hey, well, why not?
We're not trying to discourage anything, and that's an important part of it because when we talk about it in our practice, we say, hey, look, and you as well. Like we say, look, this is awesome. Like you guys are psyched. Here's some help. Here's some things that you may not have talked about or may not have felt comfortable talking about. But there's a bunch of different factors that play into this. There's the estate planning, right? So if this all works out perfectly and we're 110 years old and we die on the front porch, where's everything going? Because maybe we have children from other marriages, maybe we have a difference of opinion on, just like anybody who gets married, like how are we gonna figure this out? How are we gonna set
you might have children from a previous marriage, you might have children as part of this marriage.
Exactly, right?
There is a lot of moving parts.
So there's that estate piece part of it. Then there's the part of, and then of course, like if I have children. Let's say I have children from another marriage, and they're going to go to college, right? So all of a sudden, like let's say you get married, and then 2 years later, your new spouse's kids have to go to college, and she's like, yeah, wow, they're going to college. I'm going to need $70,000 a year in order to pay for whatever to pay for Princeton because my kid's really smart. And you're like, wow, that could affect us financially.
Yeah, absolutely, it could. Yeah.
So there's that. So maybe we should wait. Yeah,
that's right. If your girlfriend or boyfriend has kids within 4 years of going to college, you might want to think that through a little bit.
Yep. Well, but I'm getting to my point. It's the whole idea. What I wanted to focus on today was how to save, because the simple idea of, okay, hey, let's say you and I are married, right? We could get married.
We could.
I mean, we would probably get married all right, let's just get married.
I'm not sure about that, but that's fine.
So,
that through a little
bit. Maybe not. So, but let's say, all right, so two people get married, and here they are. They're married, and now they're like, okay, I make a different income than you. Right. I have different a set of circumstances that I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah, I'm bringing property. I'm bringing sure.
And you have what you're bringing, and I'm used to saying this is my stuff, and I'm used to managing my own stuff, and maybe I do a good job of it, maybe I don't, but this is how I manage it, and then you're the same way. So the idea of kind of when you married, like automatically some of that goes together, especially if you're living together, right?
Yeah.
Some of that has to overlap. But what we find in our practice is a lot of people will try and really keep it separate. And I think that's okay, but I think at some point you're going to have to start to intertwine things if you want to save, because it's hard, it's nearly impossible to save if if you're not on the same sheet of music.
Well, it's funny you said that, because that's when clients come in the office and when they ask for that type of advice, and they say, look, we're bringing a second relationship together. Do you have any thoughts on it? And I say to them, exactly what you just said. I say, look, you need to figure out, first of all, how separate you're going to keep things, right? Because, if somebody's going to bring their retirement account, or they're going to bring their 401k, or they're going to bring their IRA, or they're going to bring a piece of real estate, and I'll say, look, do you want to keep that stuff in your name? And you say, this is my stuff. This is what I brought to the table as of, November 1, right, 2017. And then this is what you brought to the table as of November 1, 2017. And then there's a third component, which is our stuff, right? The stuff that we build and that we brought together. And I think you're exactly right in the sense that if you're going to have to at some point say, look, we can keep our investment accounts that I have and that you have separate, and keep our retirement accounts separate, and figure out the beneficiary piece of it. But at some point, you're right. You say to yourself, well, if we're gonna build our nest egg going forward, we got to combine forces, right? And you're going to have my favorite account of all, the brokerage account, right? We're both people
the
are contributing
Solaris Hill
to it.
brokerage account.
And we're both people are contributing to it.
I was reading about it in the Wall Street Journal the other day. Yeah, these guys.
But yes, at some point you said, look, but I tell clients, but you're going to decide that, right? You have to decide: are we going to operate off of two separate sheets, or are we going to some degree combine?
And you can, and so I guess you can keep things separately.
Yeah.
And we have an answer. You and I have an answer. You can keep things separately. There are going to be some things that overlap, but we're going to talk about what some techniques if you are going to keep things separately. And I think in a lot of ways, and a lot of times there are some things you have to keep separately,
right.
and you should keep separately. We're going to talk about how to do it separately, but at the same time have everybody on the same glide path and on the same flight plan in order to achieve get to financial nirvana.
All right,
that's all right. Well, and we're going to talk about that when we come back from our break here on my FM 101.3, Money in the Law. Money, law. I'm pointing to Jay as law. I'm pointing to myself as money for you radio listeners out there.
So money.
So money. We will be right back.
Holliston Cable Access Television is a valuable community resource which has been serving the community for the past 25 years. HCAT provides quality community programming and offers viewers a wide range of programming, including coverage of municipal meetings, high school sports, studio talk shows, and community events. Have you ever thought about producing and directing your own TV show? HCAT staff will provide you with hands-on training free of charge. You'll learn how to operate a TV camera, edit video, direct a show, audio, and graphics. State-of-the-art equipment and the latest technology are used to create shows designed to inform, educate, and entertain our viewing audience. You can now catch your favorite HCAT programs online as we now offer video on demand. HCAT programming is produced by residents for the residents of Holliston. Call 508-429-8979 or go to hcattv.org for more details.
And you're back, Money Law. Marsden Law Group.
You forgot your name.
I forgot my own name. John Drohan, Main Ever Financial, My FM 101.3, here at the WMRC console, manning the ship here.
Yeah, this is the con. We have the con.
Yeah, we have the cuts. Good. That's
and of course we're here with our buddy Christian from Holliston Cable Access TV.
Keeping us handsome.
Yeah,
the
drummer for the band.
Yep,
that's right. He's the new drummer for the band. We alluded to that new band last week. Led by lead vocals Lisa Hedrick. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Lead vocals, Bruce Guilfoyle lead guitar.
Yep, Don Cronin the Barbarian on bass.
Don Cronin on bass.
Yep,
just your classic fundamental rock and roll band.
Yeah,
Four-piece
no fool around.
Rock and roll band.
No guitar.
You know what? I think they just did a cover of "Knocking on Heaven's Door" because I think everybody has to do that.
Oh, it's 3 chords in the truth right there. 3 chords in the truth. That will get you all the places you need to go.
That's right. Yep. That's right. That's a great Bono line, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Although that's not my favorite rendition of it. What's your favorite? Who's your favorite Knocking on Heaven's Door? Because I have an absolute favorite.
Oh God, I don't know. There's so many of them. I don't even know.
My favorite one, Guns N' Roses. The Guns N' Roses cover of Knocking on Heaven's Door. It's almost. But have you ever heard their cover of Sympathy for the Devil?
No, that I have not. No.
Oh God, I mean, it's hard to turn off.
All right.
I miss Guns N' Roses. Well, they're back.
I know they're back.
They're back. But they're not. They're back.
He looks a little different. He's put a little weight on.
Well, who hasn't?
Me, you.
Who hasn't here in the New England Fat Laws?
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
That's why you come here.
So putting some weight on, we're talking about 2 families, bringing a second family back into the mix, right? We're talking about adding.
This is the heavier family.
Adding the baggage, that's right. Adding the baggage back in. That's right. So you're getting remarried again. So you were saying before the break, I tell clients, look, you're going to make a decision on the front end. You're going to decide, keep it separate or bring it together. Retirement accounts, stuff like that. Those aren't going to get combined.
Those are separate.
They are separate, but there's conversations around beneficiary designations and things like that. And I'll tell you where this becomes important to think about is, and you mentioned it before the break about income. Somebody comes to the table and there's a disparity, or there's somebody makes way more money than somebody else, and at some point they want to provide for each other, and you're going to figure out, are we going to use, or am I going to use my assets to provide for my second spouse in retirement, to possibly the detriment of my kids, my own kids. I mean, this is what you're talking about. This is what you're going to
the income piece. So usually we see that. So before they get married, that's figured out. Like the day-to-day bills, that stuff figured out. So they say, okay, so let's say, one person makes $200,000 a year, the other person makes $100,000 a year. Not bad, but good incomes, right?
Sure, yeah.
But one's more than the other, and let's just say everything else, is equal. If one makes twice as much income as the other, a lot of times they'll say, well, if we're buying a house together, or I'm moving into one person moving to the other person's house, then they say, okay, we'll split the cost of the house, and we'll split the cost of like the silly things like utilities and
cable, gas,
and all that.
Stuff.
That's easy, right? And food and right, and then maybe we'll have like this kind of going out to eat fund or something like that, and that's easy to do, and that's fun, and people are like, oh yeah, and there's no real like argument or anything like that.
No, that's right. Well, that's the operating account, right? That's kind of how I always refer to it as. Look, you're going to need X amount of dollars to kind of make this ship run, right? So how much is that number, right? And then they figure out, they dump in whatever they get to dump in.
So let's say
they're both kicking in $5,000 or whatever.
So let's say per month, okay? Let's say per month, it costs a total of $6,000. Say $7,000 to run the ship, right?
Yep.
To run their because there may be kids involved, So it's $7,000, and that's to run this household. Okay, so if I make $100,000 and my new spouse makes $200,000, I'm not going to use you as an example because you didn't want to get married to me. So,
no, for all the obvious reasons.
Yeah. So
first, you didn't ask me.
First of all, you didn't get down on one.
Yeah, I didn't like the way you asked.
Yeah, right.
It's rude. Just flat out rude.
Yeah, you just assume. You assume. Right? Yeah, I'm not going to be treated.
This is any indication of how it's going to go going forward. Then forget it. No,
right. Yeah, it's all more you than me.
No respect.
Yeah, I get it. Money before law.
Always,
right.
Yep, always.
So, so now if we're going to split that cost and it's $3,500 each, $3,500 a month to me is much different than $3,500 a month to you.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Now, again, we assume there was no, all things aside. Now, let's say that the person who my spouse is paying child support or has some sort of other costs, is paying off student loans for medical school or something like that. So they're like, okay, well, here's I can afford 35, you afford 35, but you know what? It's not like I'm sitting there banking the other, and all the rest of my money that I make. I'm have to pay it on this loan. So that's when you have to start considering like these other factors and say, okay, well, how much is your cost, your total cost? How much is my total cost aside from what it costs to run the household? And it's the easiest answer, but it's the hardest thing for people to do. Is what you got to do then? You know the answer. I know the answer. Christian knows the answer. Everything needs to come out on the table. Everything. Like you need to say, okay, here's all the finances.
Right.
And here's the finances that have nothing to do with you. Here's the finances that have to do with my 2 kids from my previous marriage.
Right.
Here's the finances that have to do with my ex-wife or husband. Here's the finances that have to do with, oh, by the way, my mother who I am, or who is sending me money, support, or potentially down the road could need support or taken care of. So all that stuff needs to come out on the table, and you have to look at it. Now, you may, people may be like, absolutely, I'm keeping my finances separate from my new spouse because my new spouse is coming to the relationship with $30,000 in credit card debt, right? And that's that now that may be that could potentially be a red flag. I mean, it could be something like, hey, well, before we get married, let's talk about how this is going to just rectify itself, because you're not going to be able to kind of contribute to this, or you're not going to be able to contribute proportionally to this, where essentially it's going to be you marry me and now I'm financing your whole operation. And if that's what I want to do and I can afford to do it.
Right. I mean, and obviously there needs to be sort of this full disclosure, if you will, right? I mean, you got to have that conversation. And by the way, ideally, you have this conversation before you get married, right? Because, I mean, you know, and
not ideally, you do it.
I mean, because the financial strain of not doing this, or the surprise, that can become an issue, right? That those things can become an issue. So you want to make sure you have this conversation and talk about it when it's not an issue, right? I mean, you kind of try to tell people all the time, you talk about estate planning when you don't have to do it immediately, right? Because there's no stress.
We said that 100 times on the show.
You talk about this when it's
talk about
when
it's fun. Yeah, when there's no stress.
You're on vacation, you're out at dinner, or you're just hanging around the house Sunday morning. You're like,
let's talk about when Dad dies. Yeah.
Hey, Ma, how you feeling? Great. Pass the butter, and maybe you shouldn't have any. Right?
Maybe we should go check out those nursing homes.
That's right. That's right. Let's finish up dinner. Let's go for a ride. Let's really make it fun. Let's keep it fun. Everybody together, all together.
Right. Mom just finished that half marathon, but you know what? Maybe we should go take out some of these assisted living places. See what you like.
I mean, you don't need it, but that's why we're doing it, right? But I mean, really, you want to have this conversation when you're not stressed out about it. You want to,
when you don't have to make a decision right away.
That's right. And by having it ahead of time, when there's nothing to worry about, you can have this conversation that doesn't involve creating more issues, right? You just you can just have it casual, be casual about it. But it's important to have. You got to.
Well, the only problem with this is, as with any conversation that you have, like kind of preemptively before something else happens, you'll inevitably get the, we talked about this.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, we talked about this.
Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, we talked about this.
Applebee's 11-1. We sat there. We watched the LA Dodgers game.
11-1.
7. We talked about
11-1 2003. Yeah, we talked about this, and the decision was made. And that's and again, not to sound sexist, but for men,
too late.
Well, I'm going to say it.
That's the money side of the microphone.
I'm saying it, right? For men, they don't have the memory that women have. And so when my wife says, "Oh, we talked about this," and don't you remember? And I'm like, yeah.
I'm just going to take it on gospel that we did talk about this, because you are probably right.
Of course we talked about it.
We did.
I have no recollection of that.
That's right. But the issue of, I always tell people that you're going to decide just to keep it separate and then combine the operating account. And then I think from there, that's kind of how you
you build off of that,
right? That's right. Because that's the thing that's going to run the day-to-day, right? And then you're going to be able to figure out, now, then you say to yourself, well, look, I can only contribute X amount of dollars because I have these other obligations. That's fine. So that's up to them to work out. And if the answer is, we need $3,000 a month, or we need $7,000 a month, but somebody's going to say, well, I'll kick in 5, you kick in 2, whatever. I mean, they're going to work that out, right? They're going to figure that out.
And that's an easy thing to work out.
Yeah.
It's not that's not a deal breaker.
No,
right?
it's math. There's nothing more to it other than just figuring out how much are we going to contribute to the house expenses and things like that.
But by putting everything out on the table, and so if someone's saying, well, I'm gonna, because we've seen this in our practice. Like we've seen, like, okay, well, one person kind of comes in with like they buy a house. One person comes in with like a lump sum,
right.
And then the other person is like, well, I make more money than you, so I put the money down for the house, and you're going to predominantly pay most of the mortgage,
right.
And that's fine, provided that it all works, that everybody understands that.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen if something happens to one of those two people, and I hear this all the time. The kids, somebody's kids, are going to say, yeah, I know that my mother lived in that house, or I know that my father lived in that house for X numbers of years, but they paid all the carrying costs, or they paid, and for some reason, families seem to think that that's sort of like that's a savings account, right?
Sure.
Like the expectation is that the surviving step parent, if you will, now has to turn around and say, well, I know your parent paid $5,000 a month to live here for 50 years. Now, like, they're going to write you a check. That's kind of what the family's expecting, right? Like, oh, they, not understanding that. Well, yeah, but they both use the heat, they both use TV, they both use all that stuff.
Yeah, and that right. So that gets tricky if it's not clearly articulated. That look, so for again, we're just kind of broaching the subject of the children, like the children from outside this particular marriage. That's a whole different animal. That's,
oh God,
that's the what do I want to give to my kids, or what do you want to give to your kids? What's fair? What are we going to give to our kids that we have together?
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother area of like where you really need to sit down at a time when it's not critical, or it's not like you stepping on my mic.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, don't trip.
Sorry. Sorry.
And you need to talk about this. And like you said, ideally this happens before you get married.
Right.
Because once you get married and then you decide to talk about it, you may find that you have very different opinions on how this should work.
Oh, and by the way, and you as the person bringing that family together, I think that it is incumbent upon you to talk to your kids and say to your
especially
kids,
especially
if they're older, right? I mean,
yeah,
I'm talking about a 12-year-old. I'm saying, you get married in your 60s again or your 50s again, and your kids are adults. You say to your adult kids, "Hey, we set things up the way we set them up, and that's our business." Right?
And this is how we're doing it. And your kids. And if you can do this before, and granted, it's not going to be a fun conversation. I mean, your kids may say, "Do whatever you want. It's your money. It's your life. You do whatever you want." And now,
and I'm not advocating that you tell your kids, "Hey, this is how we do it." But what I guess what I'm saying is, if you say to your kids, "Look, we know that this potentially could be an issue, right? We know that we don't want there to be any bad blood. We've made arrangements. We recognize that we brought two families together and that there's a little bit of a disparity in the way things are kind of laid out here. But don't worry about it. We'll handle it the way we want to handle it. Don't basically mind your own business, but we know that it's on your mind." Because I'll tell you right now, any kid out there who sees mom and dad get married the second time around, first thing they think about is, that better not get in the way of, and they'll tell you, no, this isn't the case, but they're already thinking, that better not get in the way of my inheritance.
Right. Well, the first thing they're thinking, why does this guy want to marry my mother, right? Like if this guy wants to marry my mom, my mom's financially set, and all of a sudden this guy shows up, because my mom's either divorced or widowed or whatever, and he's like, oh yeah, we're going to get married, and of course, you're doing the math, you can't help it. You're like, well, what is he bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? And and not even so much as, I'm worried about he's going to take something of mine. I'm worried that he would be trying to take advantage of my mother.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, that's exactly what you think. And for all the right reasons, everybody starts off as suspicious, and that alone can get in the way and affect your relationship with your kids because they think. And again, I know mom and dad are going to say, "Look, I'm independent. I can do whatever I want to do." I get that. But just like as a parent, you're always worried about your kids. As a kid, you always worry about your parents, especially after something traumatic happens. Like you said, like there's a life event that now puts them in a position where you say, "Look, I don't want them to be vulnerable. I don't want someone to take advantage of them. I want my mother to be happy. I want things to go the way she wants it to go." But not everybody has the most objective, wonderful thoughts in their own mind. To your point, there's always people who say, hey, I didn't make any good decisions here, so I'm just going to kind of hook on with somebody who's going to kind of get me to the finish line.
So it comes back to, again, it all kind of comes back to, let's lay everything out and look at it objectively and say, okay, what are, we obviously want to spend, we think that we're getting married because this is better than this. So we're going to get married and we're going to have our operating expenses, and those are going to be combined to run our household. And then let's look at everything else. Let's say, okay, here's what I bring to the table. Yeah. Here's what my new spouse brings to the table. Here are the other family members that are part of this decision or a part of this now new union.
Sure.
And here's the family members that are part of, from the other side. And we say, okay, look, what is it that, what are our goals? We want to live till 110. We want once we retire, whenever that is, we want to be able to live comfortably. And these are usually what you hear, right? And you as the estate planner, they'll say, okay, and I want to make sure that my kids are taken care of, and I want to make sure that my kids get my X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C, right? I want to make sure my kids get something.
That's right. But at the same time, they'll also say, but I want to make sure that my spouse is provided for.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
So now I have somebody else, like my husband or my wife. I want to make sure that they're taken care of as well in the case of my demise or our mutual demises or that, right? So back to your point about the kids, about having how do we kind of get to, I mean, that's your estate plan. That's why, if you're going to get married on a second marriage and you're concerned about leaving, I mean, some people are like, I don't care about my kids. My kids are fine, or my kids, they don't want my money, or they don't need it, or I don't have any money to give them, or whatever. But most people don't think that. Most people are like, well, I do care about I want my children to if there's anything left, I want them to have it, or I want to leave them in a state. That's why you need to go to an attorney and you need to say, okay, how can I make this happen? Because it's easy to do.
Well, but to your point, it's not a frequent situation where you see two people who walk in the door and independently say, we're both wealthy and we both don't need each other's money, and so we don't care if my estate goes here and his estate goes here. A lot of people aren't in that position. A lot of people come in and say, it's a team effort, and I'm going to need either his retirement account, or I'm going to need her pension money,
I'm going
to need something to help get to the finish line. And it's usually, and then the issue is it's one of three things. It's either money, retirement assets, or real estate. Yeah. That's the big three, right?
What else is there?
Those are the three things.
Those are the things that make life worth living.
Yeah, yeah.
So you get candy, and maybe a Harpoon or a Sam Adams Oktoberfest that gets left on your doorstep.
Little gremlin's leaving your door. Yeah, that's always a good idea. Always welcome that.
What about the wine? The wine that was
tiny wines.
I mean, yeah,
the beach wine.
I tried to make everybody happy. Yeah,
it's all about the ghosting. So I think that for real estate, I think that you need to discuss. Are you going to own the real estate together? Are you going to own it in such a way that if one of the two of you were not around, the survivor gets it?
Yep.
And I'm telling you, that's going to leave some marks, because
especially if you're moving into the house that kids grew up in.
Yeah.
Or if you're moving into a brand new house that a great Cape house that's a $700,000 house that you bought cash because everybody put in $350,000.
But I can tell you, I get a ton of calls from people who say, my dad, my mother, whoever it is, got remarried, and we or I was supposed to get the house.
Supposed to.
And they did something. They planned differently than the kids thought, and either the kids weren't kind of clued into the fact that that's not the case, or the planning wasn't done in such a way that kind of respects everybody's potential interest.
That's right. Because if one person passes away in one of these older relationships, one person passes away, I mean, the other person, it's their house. That's where they live. What are you're gonna kick them out of the house?
Right. Or it's not their house, right? Yeah. It was never changed over.
Yeah.
And then the surviving spouse, you have certain rights, meaning you're entitled to a certain percentage of somebody's estate if something happens. And so these issues, if they're not worked out, are going to create some serious problems between relationships that may already be strained, over a decade or a couple of decades of family
you may not
tension.
like them.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't like them.
And then you're going to get stuck dealing with them, and it's not going to. It doesn't end well. And what usually happens is everybody just throws their hands up and says, "Well, forget it. Then we're just going to now it's a war of attrition. Now we're just going to wait somebody out, right?" And in the meantime, things have to happen, right? Certain things have to happen. And so it's important to have a discussion.
So you have so your assets are all laid out, and your objectives or goals are identified. So then you say, okay, that's great, and we want to save money for retirement, because all roads lead to retirement. So we want to save money for retirement. We want to own this house together, and we want to leave assets for our kids. We want to leave some of our estate for our kids. So in the case of retirement, you mentioned this earlier. So your 401k or your spouse's 401k and your own 401k or your IRAs, they're individual retirement accounts. They are owned by you. You can't share them.
That's right.
Yeah, you can't combine them.
You can't add your wife or your husband to your account.
We can't combine them. So each of you are going to bring in your own retirement assets into the now. If one person's got $1 million in their 401k and the other person's got $100,000 in their 401k, that's significant, right?
Yeah,
that's a significant difference. Now, granted, remember, the 401k is not designed to leave to your kids. That's not the primary purpose of your retirement account. Your primary purpose of your retirement account is to retire.
Right.
And so, let's say I married somebody and I have $1 million in my 401k. We're getting married because we want to retire together,
right,
and so our plan is when maybe it's not like I'm gonna will all the money over to her necessarily, but our plan is that we're gonna retire together, and we're gonna continue to live, and we're gonna need to generate income. And if most of the money's coming from my 401k, that's the way it is.
It is, but in situations like this, you talk about the goal is to spend it in retirement. I don't know if you guys talk about this with people.
Get off my cord.
But what I try to tell people is, look, when you have a retirement account, you can leave your retirement account to different people.
Oh, sure.
Right? You don't have to just leave it all to a spouse or all to kids. You can chop that thing up a little bit and say, look, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. If something happens to me, I'm going to leave my second spouse, pick a number, right? 50% of my $1 million IRA, right? Yeah. I'm going to make sure that they have money to live their life and not impoverish them, because that's what we want to do.
But what are you doing right now? What are you doing? Those words that just came out of your mouth. What are you doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah, what are you doing when you're saying that? When you're like war gaming this out, what are you doing?
I'm billing somebody for the conversation. I'm charging them for this discussion.
No. I'm talking about for your own. You're planning.
Yes, you're making
a plan. You're making a plan. You're not in retirement. You're not on your deathbed. You're like saying, okay, let's war game this out. Here's what we want to see happen. Here's, if A happens, if I die early, this is what I want to see. I want to see my new spouse to continue to be able to live in retirement. But I also want to see, I don't want that she or he doesn't need all that money, right?
No.
He doesn't need all. So part of that money can go to my kids. But it's a plan.
But here's the other thing too. Here's the other thing that I like about it is it doesn't keep everybody together forever. Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a whole nother thing that we could talk about, but because you talk about the retirement accounts, they're individual, they can't belong to anybody other than the person who owns them. But that doesn't mean that it all has to go to the same place. And by splitting it up this way, you are not forcing these people to deal with each other
forever
for the rest of their life. Because what you will hear from people is, here's what I'm going to do, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to leave it all to my second or third or fourth spouse. Yeah. And then when they go, they're going to make sure that I keep the kids on, my stepkids, who I don't talk to and who don't like me and who never liked me. I'm going to keep them on it as beneficiaries.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that's not going to happen. Okay,
no.
It's not going to happen. Or what's going to happen is the kids of the second or third or fourth spouse, when they get in charge because mom or dad's losing their marbles.
Wait a minute. If you're on your third or fourth spouse, then
you probably you don't have a sizable 401k. You've given it away. You've given it away.
That's right.
But here's the point is, even if you think that each of you is going to do the right thing, the other people who are involved may not think that way.
What's the rule? The rule of planning with combining families. Money makes people act weird.
Oh, it absolutely does.
It makes people do strange things.
So from a retirement account perspective, I guess my suggestion would be think about how and in what portions you would leave it, because then you're not forcing people to be tied together for the rest of their life, right? You leave somebody a $500,000 IRA, then they can name whoever they want to name for beneficiaries.
It's theirs.
It's theirs.
And that's the important thing is, like, when you leave it to them, It's theirs. And how often have you heard this where people say, well, you know what, if, my spouse will have my retirement, but they'll help my kids out.
Oh, yeah.
They'll help the kids out.
Yeah.
They'll help because it was my intent that I wanted to help pay for college. So they'll continue to fund the 529s. And they don't have to do that.
No,
they're under
right.
no legal obligation to do that.
That's right.
And most of the time, they're not gonna.
No.
They're
in the wind. They're in the wind. They're
Yeah.
gone. They're gone. And you know what?
And maybe they do it. Maybe they don't do it because they can't. Maybe they don't do it because other bills come up. They have health issues or for whatever reason. But you can't expect that. That it's going to happen just because somebody promises you that or
well,
somebody
and guess
says
what?
that.
Guess what they're worried about? They're worried about them running out of money, right? Because now, they were
Which they should worry about.
That's right.
That.
What everybody worries about, right? So they are going to worry about it, and I agree with you. They might, in theory, it's a great idea, but they're not going to step up to the plate and do all kinds of wonderful things. They're just not. People just aren't wired.
So it's easy to do, but to build that plan and to clearly articulate kind of what you want to happen, it's easy to do. You call a lawyer,
right.
You call an estate planning attorney, and the estate planning attorney says, "Oh, this is what you want to do? Watch this. I do this in my sleep." And then they build the will and they build the trust and they have the trustee and all that fundamental estate planning 101 happens. And then you know what? Then your second marriage, it's easier. It's
right.
much easier from okay, now we know what and when you put it on paper and you put it in the form of a trust, it's clearly articulated. You both sign it.
That's
you
right.
both say, "Hey, this is what we're doing. We're under under sound mind and body," and it's witnessed by Sharon Doherty Clancy. She's actually a professional witness by trade.
For signing documents, not for other crimes or things like that. She's not an alibi witness.
That's right.
So that's different. It's
It's
a different fee
she's
schedule.
not a DNA.
It's a different
witness,
fee schedule. Different fee schedule. But the retirement account piece is important, and the other part of it is real estate, right? Because everyone's worried about getting kicked out of a house, right? I'm not gonna have a place to live. And these second marriage situations, to your point, if you don't own the house together, you really got to figure out and you really got to write it down. Talk about writing it down.
Yep.
You really got to write it down. Who's going to get to stay in the house, if anybody,
Yeah.
right? And how does that work? And more importantly, what determines when somebody gets kicked out of the house? That's the other part. You can figure that out.
Yep. So and real estate, particularly if it's a sentimental property or just a flat out valuable piece of property, that's the tangible thing that the kids see. That's the tangible thing that they you always think like, well, my parents, they own their house. They own that Charlestown, four family
there. Yeah.
right. They own that, and we always think, and in their minds, that's the legacy. That's what they're leaving. And if that somehow is not going to happen the way they thought because of this new relationship and the new marriage, then that talking about causing problems and talking about causing like distrust, and you don't want that. And back to my point is you can fix that. You can fix that before it happens.
Sure.
You can say, hey, write it down. Here's what's going to happen if something happens to me. Make no mistake about it. And your kids may not want to hear it because they may think, well, if something happens to you, then I'm going to, we're going to, me and my brother and my sisters are going to inherit this, and we're going to start charging rent, and now I'll be able to pay for my kid to go to college.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, if you have a situation with this property like that, the kids absolutely are already doing the math in their head. They're already saying, I know what the rental market's like. I'm not worried about paying for college. I'm not saving for college because guess what? That property's coming my way.
That's
right?
a bad.
I know
that's
I'm getting that. I know.
Planning mistake.
Well, it is, but everybody does it.
Yeah.
Everybody does it.
They start counting their inheritance before they get it.
That's right. And if you have some of these things lined up and the planning hasn't been done for around these second relationship situations, it's going to be a real problem. You're gonna have some angry individuals because everyone's working off a completely different set of rules. They're all thinking the same thing, but it's all about them. What am I getting at the end of the day?
We may have to talk about this next time. We may have to come right back into
it could be a two-show subject.
We could because we didn't get a chance to really talk about saving and some techniques to save because at the beginning of the show, like you can have separate accounts, you can have separate finances joined at for the household income.
Yeah.
And you can save successfully. I've seen clients do it. You can save successfully and happily, and everything works out, provided that you've done you've kind of identified all of the areas that you need to pay attention to.
Okay.
And so I'd love to talk about that. I'd also love to talk about, I don't know, your favorite Rolling Stones song, "Sympathy for the Devil." I don't know why.
Dead Flowers.
Dead Flower. What album is that?
I don't know.
You don't.
No idea. No idea.
You don't know your. Remember when albums mattered?
Yeah.
Remember when albums like, oh no, that's off the
albums and album
yeah.
artwork mattered.
Oh.
More importantly, the album was important, but the album artwork that was important.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Rolling Stones, they were pioneers in that.
They were cutting edge on that.
Yeah, they were pioneers. They knew the deal, right? And the albums all like made they were all kind of tied together. All the songs,
yeah.
It was
the
like
packaging
a theme.
was all
There was a theme
yeah, that's right.
on
It was
that
all
album.
tied together. That's right. That's
and
right.
then what's the dagger in the rock and roll heart? What is it? It's the double album.
Oh.
The double album, yep, it doesn't necessarily end the career, because the career may not, it may put him on a 15-year sabbatical.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, could be.
But the double album or the double live album,
ooh,
that's like a
double
three round burst to the chest.
Yep, that'll do it. That'll do it. That'll do it. All right, so you want to talk? We'll carry this over. Is that what you're talking about?
If we remember to. If we remember, who knows? We may not remember to do it, but if you want to remind us, by all means.
Actually, if you are a second marriage couple out there and you want to share your situation with us, we're happy to give you
reach out.
Happy to give you a makeover,
That's
money in the law makeover, right? Give you a money in the law makeover.
Yeah, right.
Let us know. Reach out. Contact the station.
Names and addresses will be kept confidential to protect the innocent. Yeah.
Yeah. Christian will do that weird stuff to your face, so it doesn't even look like you're on TV. Just kind of like
Yeah.
too nameless. We'll do that whole thing.
It reminds me of. I have to just say one thing. So when I was in college, we did one of those things, and it was like, but it was like a funny thing, right? And my friend did it, and this guy was like one of the funniest guys. But they did that to his face. But then he had, because I was in the military, they had a name tag, and it was says John de Blasio. And he's saying on the thing, he's like, they can't see my face, right? They can't see.
I don't know who you are.
And it's like, but it's like, oh, they can't see my face, right? Because they disguise the voice.
The voice
too.
and everything. That's hardcore. You know you're spilling some beans then.
That's right.
You're spilling some beans.
You're giving up. You're giving up.
They had your face and your voice.
You're probably going on the witness protection program.
Yeah, someone's going to jail. Someone's going to jail.
All right, we'll be back next week with Money Law. I'm John Drohan with my dear friend Jay Marsden and Christian from Holliston Cable Access TV. Join us next week, Saturday morning, 9 o'clock a.m. on My FM 101.3.
We'll see you then.
We'll see you then.